Well, thank you for joining us on In the House. My guest is he's new to the General Assembly, Representative Kevin Crutchfield, representing District 83 in Cabarrus and Rowan County. And sir, welcome to In the House.
Thank you, Mark. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to have this time with you. We haven't shared much time at all since this session has begun, so I wanted to give folks a chance to get to know you a little bit. And you ran an election and won. I'm jealous. The only election I ever ran in, I lost by 50 votes. So good for you. I tip my hat to you. I ran for town council years and years ago, and that was in another lifetime. But what compelled you to want to get in and get up early and come to Raleigh and join the rat race that is being an elected official?
Well, it's interesting, Mark. I've always been someone who likes to try to make things better, and sometimes it's difficult to do that when you're not in a position to make things better. And I have 9 grandkids, which I love dearly, and I felt like my life had been pretty good to me, and I was in a position financially and personally that I thought I had a chance to go to Raleigh and actually make some good policy changes to benefit the citizens of my district in the state of North Carolina.
Wow, that's cool. So you're giving back and trying to help the future for your grandchildren. That certainly is admirable. And I think everybody, I know this isn't feasible, but I think everybody should run for office at least once in their life and go through that emotional roller coaster. But anyway, that's just me.
It definitely humbles you.
Oh my goodness, yes. And so tell me a little bit about your district, Cabarrus, Rowan counties. What's going on? What do you feel like you've got your finger on the pulse of what's important there right now as we take a snapshot today?
Well, I work hard with people to try to get them to keep me in mind and keep me abreast of what's going on and what's important. Cabarrus and Rowan County in the 83rd district is made up of about 1,400 farms. So there's a lot of rural community, wow. A lot of needs from a medical standpoint, a lot of small businesses. And those are my focus. It's the farmland preservation. I'm not an anti-development person, but at the same time, I do realize that we need to preserve our farmland. Otherwise, we'll have nothing to grow food on to feed those folks that are coming here for the economic development. So I kind of try to ride the fence and look for a balance in that market.
Yeah.
As far as what's important, we're facing issues here in Cabarrus County. One of the things that we're working on is getting a partisan school board race. We want to get that passed. For us in this county, after being at the last election cycles and being at the polls and listening to what's going on, it became apparent to me that we need to do something to give the voters the choice of who should be running in the race and not the special interest groups like the GOP or the Democratic Party or other folks as well. So for me, I see going with a partisan race as an effort to make the school board race more transparent and give the voters a better voice in deciding who's going to run their schools.
Representative Crutchfield, I've been down there several years now, and I've seen this come up with other school boards and sometimes with county commissions and town councils and stuff. Seems like this is something that's becoming more and more prevalent across our state, where the need to be able to provide voters with a clear choice is becoming more and more prevalent.
Well, I think so. I mean, I don't, personally, I wish we didn't need to make school boards partisan. I don't think school boards need to be partisan, but the fact is they are. Mm-hmm. And since they are, we need to address them from a partisan standpoint. So I think it's the right thing to do for the voters and for the quality of the schools. We need our school boards to represent the districts that they serve, and making a partisan race will allow that to happen. It is a little bit of a detriment to our independent voters because they won't have a place to run as candidates without getting a bunch of signatures, which that's the only downside that I see. I do think it gives those independent voters a better chance to have their voice heard in who they want to run in the general election once the primaries are over.
So in terms of the bill, I read in the Independent Tribune that you said you would file a bill if need be, but there's I guess it's House Bill 88 that's going through the motions now, and it's gone through the Senate and the House, and it's in what's called a conference committee. Is that bill going to suffice, do you think, or will there be something else necessary?
I think that's just going to suffice. We the bill came up in the House side of the legislature, and it was put forth, and it left Cabarrus County off of it. So when it got over to the Senate decided to amend the bill and include Cabarrus County on that as well. So it's been passed in the Senate. It's in conference committee. I suspect it will pass and will be sent to the governor for approval.
Well, good. So that sounds like an issue that you are well aware of and have well in hand and working for your constituents on. And you saw a video on Twitter of all places where you were speaking about your passion for small businesses. And I say of all places because most of the members of the General Assembly don't have as Twitter as much as they do Facebook, but so you have a passion for small businesses, and
of course,
that you have a history as a business owner.
Yes, I do. My wife and I started our small business in 1998 with a pickup truck and a ladder, and we've been very fortunate to have great clients and great employees over the years, and we've grown it to about 45 employees, and
Wow.
we've been very, very, not extremely, but very successful at it. And for us, the most expensive thing we have next to payroll is the cost of healthcare. So one of my passions is to work with other small businesses and try to figure out ways in which we can reduce our healthcare. Most people wouldn't know it, but 96.2% of the businesses in North Carolina are by definition small businesses. So it's a very big part of the state. And that doesn't get a lot of press, but we need to join together and try to figure out what we can do to make ourselves competitive in the marketplace when it comes to employee retention and medical benefits.
I never would have guessed it was that high. That's amazing.
Yeah.
96%. Now, you mentioned the Access to Care Working Group. Is this healthcare?
Healthcare, yes. It's a group that's been pulled out of the House to kind of a small working committee to just address these issues from many different perspectives. I'm obviously on it to represent small business. We have other folks on it that represent the medical side of it and so on and so forth. So we're just really talking about ideas of how do we improve access to healthcare. It's definitely a problem. There's no solution that's been identified yet, so we're kicking around ideas to see what we can do to improve that.
Now, another thing that you talked about was a small business caucus. I know there's a sportsman's caucus, freedom caucus, all kind of different caucuses, small groups within the House. Has a small business caucus been formed, or is this an idea that you're kicking around?
It hasn't been formed. We've talked about it with a couple legislators that have small business interest. It's with 96.2 of the businesses in the state being small business, it makes sense that we would try to get some sort of concerted effort toward legislation that would assist in small business operations in the state. And I think that's the whole idea. We just go get people from different backgrounds with different experiences and put them in a room and we talk about these things. Now, I don't want to be over caucused by anything. And I think we do have a lot of caucuses in the House, but I think this is one that's very important since it represents such a large population of the state.
What other bills are you sponsoring that you'd like to talk about? I know that you've been pretty active so far for a freshman, which is always good to see. And so tell us a little bit about some of your other efforts at legislation.
Sure. I'll give you one bill that we're looking at is it's a permit bill. Basically, what we're asking for is to mandate that states, counties, cities, when they require permits for different situations, that they would be required to mail those permits back to the applicant once they're approved. Seems like a kind of a small thing, but for companies like mine, for instance, in a small town out east in North Carolina, they might require that we drive all the way out there and stand there in line and pick up the permit in hand and then drive all the way back, which is a complete waste of resources and assets to do that when they could just put it in the mail. This one of the things that comes up is the discussion over whether or not the sheriff's department should mail carry concealed permits. That seems concerning, but in fact, all they do is walk in and pick them up anyway. So it keeps people at work. They don't have to take time off. They don't have to find childcare so that they can go in and get a permit that's already been approved and issued. So I think it's a valuable thing for small business as well as the citizens of the state.
Yeah, good. Well, I think that as you said, you come down there with a businessman's perspective, and that makes sense to me. So good job. I wanted to say that a lot of folks get down there and they get overwhelmed? Have you reached the point of being overwhelmed yet with the drive, with the meetings, with the back and forth, with the not knowing, are we voting today? Are we not voting? Or have you just taken it all in stride?
I can't say that it's overwhelming. I mean, there's a lot to do. And I think the fact that I'm very fortunate that I get to do this job. While it's a part-time legislator's job, I get to do it full time because my sons and my wife are running our business while I'm up here doing this, which gives me more time to cover all these aspects. I think if I was trying to run a business and do this, it would be overwhelming, but I'm fortunate that I can fill my schedule with what needs to be done in the House and address those issues every day. And that's one of the reasons I'm fortunate to get elected as freshman leader, because I think I have more time than a lot of my freshman cohorts that have other jobs they have to operate on.
Good. That's excellent. Well, Representative Crutchfield, thank you for your time. We like to keep these things fairly short and to the point. And I think we've covered a lot of ground, actually. And I think you're doing a good job representing your district. So thank you for being our guest today on In the House.
I appreciate that, Mark. You have a great day.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you.